If you have ever been part of a church, then you know it is messy. While the church is made up of those who by the grace of God have been set free from the guilt and power of sin and are being renewed in the image of Christ, we are still sinners. We're still prone to pride and foolishness, selfishness, and bad theological beliefs. The church in the city of Corinth in the first century may be on the short list for messiest church in history. You name it, they did it. They would downplay the centrality of the gospel and elevate human philosophy and wisdom. They built cliques around particular leaders. Sexual immorality and an overall disregard for holiness ran rampant. The rich would mistreat and disregard the poor. Folks would demand their own rights over caring for others. Broken marriage relationships abounded. There's a pridefulness in knowledge and intelligence. They valued gifting over loving others. They misused their spiritual gifts and had particularly bad theology about the resurrection. If you're a part of the church in Corinth, you may have thought, is this all the church is? Why bother with any of this? Well, it sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? Sadly, the church in the United States has far too often been prone to such sins. Look, we've downplayed the centrality of the gospel and we've elevated human philosophy and wisdom. We've built cliques around particular leaders and theological camps. We've let sexual immorality run rampant. We've disregarded holiness. The rich have mistreated and disregarded the poor. We've demanded our own rights over caring for others. Well, there are far too many broken marriage relationships in our churches. We're prideful in our knowledge and intelligence. We value gifting over love. We misuse our spiritual gifts, and the bad theology we chased after could fill an encyclopedia. And all of this sounds like a bleak picture. Looking at all the mess in the church, you may have thought yourself, why bother with any of this? Well, in the midst of all that brokenness at Corinth, the Apostle Paul writes a letter to the church to bring much needed correction. He paints a picture of what the church should be and can be when the gospel fully transforms our hearts. And in the introduction to his letter, he writes this: to the church of God that is in Corinth, to those sanctified in Christ Jesus, called to be saints. He tells them that Jesus himself will sustain them to the end. The Apostle Paul never lost sight of the hope that even though the church is messy, we still have the power of God in us and we still are the people of God. So I want to invite you to join us on Sundays beginning September 6th as we journey through the book of 1 Corinthians. In the beautiful, messy community that is the church, 1 Corinthians offers us much needed truth about what it means to be a gospel-centered, gospel-transformed people. My hope is that in the midst of the personal and cultural challenges we face today, our study of 1 Corinthians will renew our hearts in devotion to Christ, challenge us with a picture of what First City Church should be and can be, and give us greater hope in God's power at work in the church, even in all of its messy brokenness. I'm excited about this series, and I look forward to seeing you on Sundays.